So I'm going to go through and actually try to build this table on the fly for you, and see if we can go through some pitfalls and things like that. So if we're doing a VLOOKUP to pull in clicks, so I have two data sources. I have, this is the original sort of Google Analytics data source, and I want to pull in data from Google Analytics. So I'm going to actually start here with this practice. So this data, this is Google Search Console data. So yeah, this is at this tab, data Google Search Console practice. Cool. So we're going to start with an equal sign to signify that it's a formula. So we're going to go VLOOKUP, excuse me, open parentheses, and then we're going to go off the formula that we have. So first parameter is the lookup value. So I'm saying I'm going to look up the home page, comma. I'm going to say which range I'm going to look up in. Again, this is the only data set that we have in this tab. So I'm just going to say I'm just going to select all the columns. So I'm going to select columns A through E as my data set. I don't have to do absolute values because I'm just selecting the columns. So there's no need to do that. You can do it, but when you're just selecting columns, it's not necessary. So comma, the third parameter I need is the column number that I want to return. So first column of that is column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need clicks. So it's going to be column 2. And then if you remember, that last parameter is that fuzzy or exact match, fuzzy being true, exact being false. It's always going to be false. So I'm just going to put false. And that's my formula. So I'll close off that parentheses, hit enter. Oh, and it gave me an error. Interesting. So this is sort of the first error that we want to work through. This error, you won't actually get this information in Excel, but Google Sheets does a really pretty good job of trying to provide you some error information as to what caused the error. So for this one, it'll say did not find slash in VLOOKUP evaluation. So the first thing is we looked up the home page, right, with this slash. But if you go to our data, it actually has the full URL in here, not just everything after the home page. So it couldn't find slash. And even if we did the fuzzy version where it's like set the last parameter to true, again, that's not necessarily a partial match, right? It's just hey, this is what I found that sort of looks like what you wanted to look up, right? So in this scenario, what I'll actually just do is I'll actually just replace all the values in my page column and just take out the domain. So I'll do Control H. You go to Edit, and then Find and Replace. And I'll type in the find as the home page. So HTTP www.cherrybombsalon.com, and then I'll replace it with nothing, right? So that way it gets rid of it. And I'll just replace all. So now we have the sort of how it was set up before, where we have slash about us. So now if we go back to our practice tab, we now have 88 clicks, which works out perfect. And then from here, so now that we have this set up, because we have the columns in our range, we're using the entire column and things like that, we should be able to actually click on this square and drag down, and now it pulls in clicks for everywhere else. So you can see now, first parameter is A5 in this cell, which corresponds to the home page. And then when I, copy and paste down, A6, now becomes a number. A7 is now the number, right? A8. And again, these are just cell references. I could say, instead of A5 as my first parameter, I could say slash, and it'll give me the same thing. This is just, a way for us to do it dynamically. If I wanted to change this to whatever, right, like I can do that and it will dynamically update. One thing I wanted to show was, so we set the second range, we set the second parameter as just the entire set of columns, right, in our data. But let's say we wanted to do, let's say we have multiple data sets in that sheet, and so we had to be a little bit specific. So for that second parameter, instead of just selecting all the columns, we can go and just select the actual data, right? So now we have A1 to E8, and that works here just fine. But to illustrate a point we made earlier, if I was to copy that down everywhere else, now we've got some errors generated. And if you notice, the first cell that we create the formula in is A1 to E8. The next cell now switches because we've copied that down. Excel sort of shifts down the ranges in your formula as well. So now we got A2 to E9, A3 to E10, right, so on and so forth. This is a common error that happens, and the solution for it is you have to set the range to an absolute value. So you have to put those dollar signs before the letters and the numbers in your range, so that way it sticks. And now, if I was to copy that down, now it goes to where it needs to be. So I just wanted to point that out, that if you're using a specific range instead of just using all the columns in your data set, that you have to be mindful of that you'd want to use absolute values, so that way that range sticks as you copy and paste down your formula. Awesome. So then from there, I can do the same thing for impressions and click-through rate. So EV lookup equals VLOOKUP. I'm still going to look up the landing page. I'm going to go back to using all the columns. Impressions is now column 3. So I'll say column 3. False is going to be that last parameter. That gives me impressions. I can drag that down. I can do the same for click-through rate. So equals VLOOKUP. Click on my value. Select the range. Select the column number. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for click-through rate. And false. A little trick here. So I was dragging down on those first 2 columns. You can also double click on this square. If you have continuous data to the left of the cell that you're in, so this one has no breaks in between, you can double click on this square, and it pulls it all down for you. So if you have like a huge data set where you don't want to drag all the way down, you can just do that. And then the last column, average position, so equals VLOOKUP. Select the cell, select the range, enter my column. So position is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then false. I can double click on that, and that pulls it all down. Awesome. So I've recreated this table with the VLOOKUPs needed. So you can see how powerful this can be, right? I've got 2 data sources I've now been able to merge together, and now the questions I can answer are going to be much more robust than what I can answer before. Before, if I was just using Google Analytics data, right, the only questions I can answer is related to Google Analytics, right? But now if someone said, hey, this page got 131 sessions last week, I also want to know, quickly, how what was the average position last week, right? I can now provide that information because I've been able to merge the 2 data sources together.